Many of us have this moment, the moment that changes everything. Mine came on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. My phone rings. School is calling in the middle of the workday. When school calls, you pick up. Hi, Wendi. It's not an emergency, but we have some troubling news about your daughter. My stomach tightens. I think they're going to tell me about some of the girls that have been being mean to her. She had mentioned that the week before, but I didn't expect to hear what I heard next. We're afraid to tell you that your daughter has been bullying some of the girls. Wait, what? My heart drops. There are lots of things as a mom that you do not want to hear about your children. This one ranks up there. And then my mind started to race. What did I miss? What did I do wrong? And the one that hits the hardest, what kind of mother has an 8-year-old bully for a daughter? I did not have answers to these questions, more like a lot of negative swirling commentary in my brain, and it didn't feel good. So I shoved it to the side, and I did what I'd always done. I turned to grit. See problem, fix problem, achieve, move on. Hi, my name is Wendi McKenna, and I am a recovering grit-only addict. Grit works. We achieve a lot with grit. But in relying only on grit, tough-minded, mind over matter, muscling through, I was missing a key ingredient to living my best life. And I didn't know it. I didn't know about the power of vulnerability. See, I grew up in a gritty household. My mom would say, discover what you love and pursue it with passion. And so I did. And when I inevitably failed, fell, broke bones, and made epic mistakes, my dad would say to me, very matter-of-factly, Wendi, it builds character. Ooh, that stung for a moment, but he was right, and I got grittier and tougher, and I achieved a lot. Everything they tell you will lead to success and happiness. D1 college student athlete? Check. Educational degrees? Check, check. Career, family, home? Check, check, check. My life looked so good from the outside. But despite all those achievements, there was something else there too. Something hidden. It had always been there. Deep, quiet, dark. If I had to name it, I might have called it sadness, but that didn't make any sense. There was nothing to be sad about. So look at all this that I'd done. So I shoved it down, and I continued to pursue and achieve for decades, until that phone call from my daughter's school. The phone call revealed the problem. Now, to fix it. But grit was not working this time. In trying to fix the problem, I was actually trying to fix her. And you can imagine that strategy just added fuel to the fire, and the problem exploded. I didn't know what to do, so I called for help. A therapist. For my daughter. Not me. When I sat down with the therapist upon first meeting her, she listened carefully to my story and then asked me one simple question. Wendi, how do you feel about it? How do I feel? Sad. Really sad. Okay, she said. Anything else? And then there it was. That darkness that I had shoved down for decades surfaced. And it was not a wisp of sadness. It was something big, black, I could not name, and I had no idea how to face. I froze. The therapist didn't hesitate. I watched as she opened her top desk drawer and pulled a sheet of paper from a stack of copies and handed it to me across the table. The feeling wheel. Study this, she said, and tell me how you feel. There were 78 emotions on this page. 78. And I could have told you the textbook definition of every single one of those words. But in that moment, I realized I had only ever allowed myself to feel a few, maybe 4. Mad, bad, sad, glad. That hit me hard. In my hand, I held the menu for a rich, fulfilling, connected life. And up until then, I had had a great life, except I had been ordering from the kids' menu. Dr. Seuss level emotional vocabulary. And up until then, I had thought that the kids' menu was the entire menu. I had had no idea that this kind of life was possible. The full life menu I held in my hand was my bridge to what was missing and is the doorway to learning emotional intelligence, or EQ, which is knowing ourselves deeply, being aware of and regulating our emotions, not stuffing them, and connecting and communicating effectively with others. In my research, I learned that emotional intelligence directly correlates with and predicts almost everything in relationships that work. Every conversation, every conflict. And I learned the good news, which is that emotional intelligence can be learned and developed over time at any age. Emotional intelligence, EQ, are inside skills, not what's happening to us out there and not what's happened to us in the past. But our EQ is the foundation and the filter through which we see the world and make our choices. EQ dictates how we hear. It shapes how we speak. It controls whether we get triggered and how we respond when we do. Like it or not, know it or not, our emotional intelligence runs the show. So while I was out there achieving a very successful outcome-based life, it was actually that darkness inside that was quietly leading me. That realization was devastating. And it was also an opportunity for growth, to finally, vulnerably feel, process, and release all the emotions that I had stuffed for decades. Dr. Brené Brown says that vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. But this did not feel like innovation. This felt like dying. And in essence, my ego was. It hurt. I wanted to run. But my commitment to my daughter and learning the skills to best serve her, I had no back door. So I leaned in and I learned to allow openness, radical honesty, vulnerability, my heart be the guide. Grit took a back seat, at least for a minute. I started therapy and personal development work. Studying EQ does not elevate it. You gotta do the work. And it begins by stepping through the doorway of vulnerability. And I learned very quickly that even though vulnerability is the birthplace of change, it is one thing to be born, and it is quite another to grow. Growing takes grit. I knew grit. I loved grit. Grit worked me for decades. It helped me achieve everything on the outside. So I figured maybe I could pull grit from the back seat, link arms with vulnerability, and it could help me grow on the inside too. When I shared this intersection of grit and vulnerability with my husband, he said what I think many of us believe. One is strength, the other is weakness. Opposite ends of the spectrum. Never the two shall meet. But as opposite as they may seem on the surface, it is actually the unyielding courage of grit that supports us to choose to expose the tenderest parts of ourselves, the parts that only seem safer, protected behind walls. And when we choose to expose the part of us that can get the most hurt, our heart, that is when we actually build the connected relationships that we all say we want and that studies show, including the longest 80-year-plus study from Harvard on adult development, says is the key to happiness and health. Grit and vulnerability together is actually essential. And it is powerful when we are in conflict, where our ideas, what matters to us most, our very identity, is often on the line. So many research studies show us that every single one of us experiences conflict or tension every single day. Conflict is not the problem. The challenge is how we react to it and behave in it, and that depends on our level of emotional intelligence. Unless we have high emotional intelligence, instead of leaning in and listening to one another, we tend to fight, justify, defend, or leave. Instead of being aware of and regulating our emotions, we tend to add fuel to the fire, just like I had done with my daughter. And instead of leaning in to the difficult, challenging conversations where we don't agree with one another, we tend to shut them down, we shut people down, we call them names and label them as stupid, weak, crazy. We bully. And bullying breaks relationships, whether we are 8 or 80. So, to build emotional intelligence and the resulting relationships that we want, we must first learn how to stay. And not stay with a scowl or grumble on our face, but stay in the face of discomfort with curiosity, courage, and vulnerability. That takes grit. Grit and vulnerability don't just meet and intersect, they weave together and pave the way for the closest relationships and the best kind of life. As for my daughter and me, she had 6 sessions, 3rd grade drama resolved. But more importantly, the seeds of emotional intelligence planted. Over the years, we grew together. We stumbled, we fell, we got back up, we repaired, we experienced all the highs and the lows, but always with a commitment to emotional connection and the courage to stay the course, vulnerability, and grit. Today, she's an adult and one of the dearest humans in my heart. I am in awe of the conversations we have and the relationship that we have built, and I can tell you right now, she has been absolutely my greatest teacher. I have learned so much over the years, and let me tell you what I'm taking forward and sharing with you now. Grit without vulnerability leads to a life of achievement, but not connection and not fulfillment. And vulnerability minus grit is like being aware of what's possible on a full life menu, but still choosing comfort, still choosing familiarity, ordering from the kids' menu, suffering. So let me leave you with this. Grit and vulnerability are not opposites. They are partners, and the formula for building from the inside out with joy and love and passion and courage and love. Building and weaving from the inside out our best life. Thank you.